Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Rugby Scoop podcast. A few of our gents are a bit delayed this afternoon, but I see Vickers, you're ready to go, ready to rumble. How are things in Russia, Vickers?
Yeah, all good, bro. All good. I'm still with family, but I said tonight I'll probably just steal an hour. Just to hang around, talk about rugby. Yeah, but still with family.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I understand. Hugh also has unforeseen circumstances coming this afternoon, and Jade is running 5 minutes late, unfortunately. But yeah, there's plenty to chat about this weekend, or this Sunday rather. Obviously, news making headlines. Michael Hooper having retired or announced his retirement today. What a career, man. He was supposed to be playing in the sevens this year in the Olympics as well. But unfortunately, he has announced that he is retired. Looking at obviously his career, man. I mean, 125 international caps. That's very, very commendable in terms of how long he's been out there for Australia. One of the outstanding players. I mean, when Australia has been going through a rough patch over this past decade, but he still stuck out as one of the formidable players within that group. 172 Super Rugby caps, one Super Rugby title, silver medalist in 2015 in the Rugby World Cup, one Rugby Championship, and he's won like four of those John Eales medals, and has been nominated twice as well as for World Rugby Player of the Year. Pretty unfortunate for him not to actually win one of those, because I mean his career has been nothing but outstanding. Vickers, I think you are looking forward to seeing him in the Seventh Circuit, if I'm not mistaken. But I mean, what do you think of Michael Hooper and his career, how the longevity and what he's meant to rugby in Australia?
Yeah, look, he's one of those guys that you probably will fight for on the field, you'll battle with, because just the way he carried himself on the field, you could see that this guy is giving it all 100%. He wasn't much of a captain to complain. It was almost like most of the time it was almost like nodding his head. Yes, we'll give it to you, and then he'd go back and fight. I think that's one of the biggest things that I give respect to Michael Hooper, is that he's always been fighting for Australia, fighting for the jersey, and I mean no one, I don't think anyone will ever think he wasn't top of his game like he was. He was always there. He was always there, giving it 100%. I think with the Sevens, that's why I was pretty much asking myself why he retired so quickly, because maybe he saw that he wasn't going to make the team, or he got injured. I'm not sure, but I think I think it's a kind of one of those things where he just maybe he had enough and probably said, you know what, my body's going through a lot, especially with the Sevens. My body's going through a lot, and maybe it's time to just hang the boots, and maybe that's what he did. But but Michael's outstanding player. I think if you look at all the top 5 nations, I think Michael would definitely be in those squads. I don't think he was one of those players that he was just Australian. I think he would have, if he had played for any other country, I think he would have definitely been in the mix. That's how hard the man was, and that's how quality the man was.
No, fair enough. Also, in other news, making headlines this week or this weekend, I see that Springbok hooker Joseph Dweba has turned down a 1 million salary increase from a Premiership rugby club in England to stay with the Stormers. So that's incredible. I mean, a lot of players would probably not turn 1 million down. But for him, I think Vickers in this situation, maybe Dweba is seeing an opportunity for him to solidify his place at the Stormers and maybe with the Springboks as well, seeing that he's been omitted a few times before previously. Maybe there's a few elements, or what do you think a player like Dweba, why would a player like Dweba maybe turn down an opportunity to go play overseas in this situation?
Yeah, look, yesterday I was discussing Makazole turning down 9 million to stay in South Africa.
Yeah, yeah.
So we've got another player turning down 1 million to stay in South Africa. Look, I think it's always been the Springbok jersey is such a pride in this country, in our country. The Springbok jersey is such a drawing card in terms of how they want, how every rugby player just wants to be part of that jersey. And I think when I look at Dweba, for example, he wasn't called up in the World Cup squad. He was there before. He didn't play the World Cup. And then obviously now they put in new players. So maybe in his mind, he's telling himself, this is a challenge. This is a challenge to prove Rassie wrong, to make Rassie think differently about him. So maybe that's why he turned it down. But I mean, at the end of the day, if you're not being selected, um, in your own country in terms of playing for your own country. I always feel going overseas, leaving the country, also puts you in a better financial state, and it puts you in a better position in terms of everyone else can start to see you. Like if you look at Augustus, how he left South Africa as an average number 8. Everyone was raving about him, obviously, but we call it an average because he was never part of the Springbok setup. But went overseas, and now all of a sudden people are asking questions. Why is this guy not being looked at? And it opens different doors. So for me, I think when it comes to Dweba, he's a little bit older. I mean, I think he's probably like around 26, 27. So I would have taken that opportunity to leave because of the fact that financially it puts you in a position where when you comes to retirement, you won't have to go and look for something to do. Also, looking at obviously putting pressure on Rassie on by performing in the English Premiership.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Also, there's a bit of a delay for English Premiership players, or for players that play in the English Premiership when it comes to being released. I noticed that last week a few players could not be released, etc., due to, I don't know, some contractual elements. And then in other news as well, I mean, making headlines, I mean, Western Province for the umpteenth time winning the Craven Week against the Free State Cheetahs on Saturday. I mean, we've seen some quality football, some quality play, some quality players coming through in this year's Craven Week as well. But I mean, that was, I mean, for what, the past decade? I mean, is there any other province close enough to Western Province at this rate? Because I mean, what is it that they're doing in Cape Town that is so different from all the other schools around the country where they produce quality every single year without fail? Um, or is it because of the regions that makes Cape Town or Western Province so strong? Because if we look at the Boland region, Vickers, there's good quality schools there, no? I mean, in terms of Paul Roos, Paul, or both Pauls, and then you have Boland Landbo. Why can't those schools play under the Boland region, and then Cape Town or Western Province will play under the Sacks of this world, the Bishops, the Rhonda Bosch, who else is there? Yeah, I mean, it will be predominantly those schools in the Western Province set up, and then the Boland region would be probably stronger. But this is a debate that's been going on for some time at school level within the South African regions. But yeah, Western Province winning it again. I mean, I think we need a bit of competition at this level, at that level. Blue Bulls are, I mean, have always been thereabout. Sharks, maybe in the past 4 to 5 years, have really started competing, or 6 years rather. Free State, yes, they're about. They've made a few finals and they've always come short against Western Province. Even when they were strong, I remember in 2000 and I think 2002 when the when Elrose broke Cheetah's hearts and scored like in the last dying minutes of the game when he broke through and got selected for the SA schools. Um, as a midfielder. But I mean, one of those things that has always been in discussion is the Western Province element, because what makes them so strong at this level?
It's called Pearl Ross. That's what makes them strong. So look, if you look at all the schools, which is I've always asked myself a question: why is Paul Ross under Western Province, but it's in the Winelands in Stellenbosch? So that doesn't make sense at all. But anyway, Boland is supposed to be also strong because of Paul Him and Paul Boys. So with those two schools, they're supposed to be at least strong enough and competitive. But if you look at Paul Ross, if Paul Ross is under Western Province, so Paul Ross will have the bulk of the team, and then obviously while your Weinberg, your Bishops, your Sachs, your the one I'm forgetting now, Randebosch Boys. So yeah, so they do have some sort of like a good feeder from Paul Ross, but again, the question is why is Paul Ross under Western Province, and yet the school is in the Winelands, where it's in closer to Paarl. It's quicker to go from Stellenbosch to Paarl than going from Stellenbosch to Cape Town. So that's like those are the kind of things. But anyway, we know that the Cheetahs obviously draw a lot of their players from Grey Bloom. Okay, so that also puts in another factor where obviously then the bulk of the team comes from the one school, and if that one school is not performing at this level, because now the other teams have got other influences, so the other provinces got other influences, then becomes different. So it's just a matter of, for me, Western Province will always be dominant because they have a bigger pool to pick from, whereas most of the, it's like we know, like let me make an example about the Eastern Cape. If you know border region, if Selborne is strong, Dale is strong, Queens is strong, border is going to be strong that year. But if none of those three, for example, this year, Queens is the strongest out of the region, then they lost to Hudson Park, who is not even close to being strong in the region at the moment. So so there's a lot of things that are happening in terms of how some of the schools teams are performing versus obviously being selected into the provincial team. So yeah, it's a long debate. We can continue ask questions about this, but the big question still remains: why is Paul Ross part of Western Province and not Boland?
Yeah, no, fair. Anyway, our topics for today, we're going to be discussing the All Black squad that has been recently announced, and obviously the captain that's been announced. And then talk about a few conversations regarding the top 14 final that was played on Friday night, and then have previews for this coming weekend's internationals. Oh man, I love international season. We've got the All Blacks against England Saturday morning, and then that's followed by Wales and Australia. And then after that, in the afternoon, next week, Saturday, is South Africa against Ireland. Oh, how can I forget that? Anyway, starting off with the All Blacks. Actually, not the All Blacks. The top 14. Vickers, did you get to watch the final on Friday? Bordeaux versus Toulouse.
Yeah, caught the second half. I mean, I didn't miss much clearly, but looking at what happened, I mean, Toulouse were just dominant. Toulouse, they were throwing the ball around. Special moments from obviously quality players. I think a guy like Aki being that system was so good. I think a guy, obviously, we know the 9-10 combination. I mean, that's always special. There's always quality. And yeah, I think for me, Toulouse have just shown that they are the best club side at the moment. And you know what? It actually would have been a good. This is the kind of things we speak about. If Toulouse got a double, they got the Investec Championship Cups and they are local. Maybe that's the cup, that's the competition between them and the Blues. Maybe that game between them and the Blues would be such a good game because obviously we're talking about the Southern Hemisphere and the Northern Hemisphere.
I think so as well, because I really believe that if now maybe we delayed the international season by another week or so, and maybe they both, I mean, yeah, they have a break this week, coming weekend, and then the following week, the last week of club rugby for any country, then we have that final. Let's say hypothetically, if you win Investec Championship Cup, then you qualify to play whoever the Super Rugby Championship champions are, or we have what they want to do in the future, the club international competition. So League One, whoever's champions there will play maybe a URC champion or a Premiership champion. And then you have Super Rugby, whoever wins there will play either top 14 champion or URC champion or Premiership champion, almost like a semi-final setup. And then from there, what you do is whoever wins those games automatically qualifies for that final. And then let's have a proper North versus South competition. But anyway, with regardless to that, I mean, 59-3, Vickers, 59-3 for a final of this caliber. I mean, there's a lot of ravings about how good the French top 14 competition is. I mean, for me, it's a simple template that's been taken from the Super Rugby golden era. And they've basically put money on it, and they put a lot of money in France, which has made it now into a very good spectacle. I mean, for people that enjoy a lot of running rugby, a lot of line breaks, a lot of maybe not so great defenses, you'll enjoy a lot of French top 14 rugby, to be honest. I mean, it's pretty similar to what's happening in in Super Rugby at this current point in terms of the quality of the nice thing is about the French top 14 is that they've got the money to have all the internationals around the globe to come and obviously spike up and help improve the competition itself. Down here, we have locals majority playing within the local divisions, local clubs as well. But the quality and the caliber of individual plays is still as brilliant. It's still as good. I mean, this is probably one of the, like I said, I've mentioned this before as well in terms of how heavily impacted Southern Hemisphere was when COVID hit. I think South Africa also managed to move up quicker because they joined the URC in that period, and obviously the UK sides and the European teams had already grappled with COVID. Already were starting to play internationals. They already had Six Nations up and running, playing in empty stadiums, while everyone down south was kind of trying to, you know, stop the bleeding, if I'm for lack of a better example. But now I think from the next year or so, we'll start seeing the old school Southern Hemisphere talent coming through, also getting into grips with how the world has moved on and trying to catch up a wee bit from that. But yeah, I think the top for the competition itself, I think French top 14, yes, it does have quality in it. But I mean, a final like that kind of proves a lot of I don't know, a lot of things that we always discuss in terms of defense, in terms of attack. But it would be a quality final between Toulouse and Auckland Blues. Played at a neutral venue, played at the Garden, played at Toulouse. It will still be a quality final. I mean, we've got professionals on both sides. We've got internationals, All Blacks and French, English, some of them in the Australians in the Toulousian side. But yeah, I think it would be a very good final, nonetheless, which people would really pay lots of money to actually go and watch. Jade, welcome back. And what did you think of the final on Friday night?
Now, look, honestly, our coverage in South Africa, I mean, we don't really get a lot of coverage for top 14. So I watched strips and drabs of it. And I saw the result and the scoreline. And, it just goes to say that to lose is at the moment, I mean, the top team in the world at club level or franchise level, because we need to break away from it as well and remember that at Super Rugby in South Africa, we're more franchises compared to clubs, in the European stage, but they deserve it. I mean, they're to wallop, I mean, what's this team's name? Bordeaux, like that. I mean, it's not like Bordeaux's a weak team. They're a very good team as well. So, yeah, I think for me, I agree, and it would be nice to see them play against the Blues, just to get that undisputed title. So for now, we can only really just talk about it and have it at a fantasy level, and talk about it. And I would just say that the Blues would win because they have a World Cup winner and Toulouse don't. But anyway, I think, going forward, they need to get something like that up. And it really, really need to get something like that up. But it just shows you that, top 14 pumped a lot of money into their rugby and into their campaigns. And it was Craven who told me a few years ago that, most of these owners are actually local guys buying back into the club, billionaires buying back into the club and getting the club, from third or fourth division right up. And we've seen it with La Rochelle, and also we've seen it on the European stage where the last four winners has been from the French league. So yeah, credit to them, to lose. What a team. I mean, there's stars all over there. And I mean, the guy that we're speaking of in terms of Peter Aki, I mean, he's not really, out and out star like the Ntamaks and the Ponds and the Jack Wallaces of the world. Just shows you that the quality they do have in their setup. So well done to them.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Sticking with you, Jade, we had the All Black squad mentioned or named just this past week. And yeah, I mean, any omissions or what are your thoughts? What do you think is going to happen leading up to Saturday for Razor, his first international? People have been crying for years. You've been crying for years. It's finally happened. This is the big week for Razor and his new All Black squad, his new coaching staff. Talk to me.
Look, obviously, I mean, let's not beat around the bush. I mean, I wasn't happy with the omission of one Oscar Sututu. Came as a surprise to me because, I mean, he was arguably the player of Super Rugby. I mean, he was outstanding in Super Rugby this season. And I really thought that, we'd get his chance. We thought that, maybe he needs to do more work off the ball. But we've seen, I mean, against the Brumbies in those teams and against the Reds, the work that he's done off the ball as well. But I guess, every coach has their plan. I think, Wallace Sititi is somebody that you couldn't ignore as well. He really put his hand up towards the end of the season. And if you're looking at what he's trying to do in his setup with his loosies, he's trying to, getting loosies, it hits a lot of rucks, makes a lot of tackles, it's good at the breakdown. So that is where he's looking at. I mean, if you look at Finau, you look at Jacobson, well, I don't really rate that well, Jacobson, but I mean, Galton Papali, Orisa Via, and Peter Lakai is in the wider squad. But I mean, those are the guys that, I mean, it's really accurate at the breakdown, they focus on their breakdown orientated. And it's similar to what he done at the Crusaders, nothing flashy from his loosies, real hard workers, basic rugby players, hit the breakdown, and I mean, giving them front football, giving them quick ball. Concerning for, I mean, the All Blacks, if you look at their selection, he only went with 3 locks with Patrick Tupolotu, who's under injury cloud. He's got Sam Derry in there, cover, but he's got Tupovai and Scott Barrett, who he made his captain. I'll touch on the captaincy now, but I mean, if you look at that, losing Barodo Retallick and Sam Whitelock, really thought that maybe we'd go with another lock, but I think long term he has Josh Lord in his squad and he's got Sam Derry and Fabian Holland, is not ineligible at the moment. So I think if you look at why I only chose 3, I think come championship, right, end of year tour, more of those guys will get an opportunity. And the most exciting thing from this All Black squad, I mean, is their props. I really think he's got some world-class props, or on the verge of being world-class props coming through. He chose 6 props. I mean, Tossi, that he chose from Highland Hurricanes, played Eidsman a few years ago, moved over to prop, 140 kilograms to 150, between 140 and 150 kilograms. They've got Tamati Williams, Christian Hugo. Very, very good props. At the back, I mean, the tried and tested at the back, no real surprises, Coop. I don't know if you saw any surprise besides maybe Steven Berofeta that was selected at the back. But it shows that, he went for, well, Jordan will be his 15 once he's fit come Rugby Championship. So I think that's the way he's going at, in not selecting Stevenson and those guys. So I think that's the way he's looking at it. But yeah, overall, I mean, I'm okay with the squad. I'm okay with his broader squad he has as well. I'm okay with getting a guy like Sam Kane in and around the squad in terms of experience and his mentorship and his IP. So I'm okay with that. For Scott Barrett, look, I spoke a few weeks ago, and I mean, Audie he's an awesome rugby player, awesome individual. But I saw a few times with the Hurricanes and with the All Blacks as well. He's made a few mistakes on the field as a captain. Instead of taking a 3, going for touch or being far from the game, where the referee really had to look for him on the field as to where he is already, call him in, to talk to him, not really in the referee's ear the whole time. So I think maybe there's something that Razor picked up, and he knows what Scott Barrett can do as his captain because he's been there with him by the Crusaders. So yeah, I'm okay with that, with Scott Barrett being captain at the party. But overall, I think it's a good squad. I mean, there's a young guys coming through, there's a few old heads there. It's going to take, a few months, maybe a year or two, for Razor to really get that ball rolling at the All Blacks.
Fair enough, 100%. Vickers, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's Jade has pretty much mentioned everything. I think for me, just on the captaincy, obviously, like Jade's last point there was being familiar with the guy from club level. So I think that's probably pretty much it. I think that's why he went for Scott, because you, as a head coach, you do spend a lot of time with your captain, just talking about your game views and how you see things happen on the field. And some of the leadership styles and some of the how you can lead, especially not being the most experienced, how you can lead guys that are experienced, how you approach those situations. So I think having someone familiar is much easier. So having someone that you've always had obviously coffees with or beer with, it's always good. So I think that's probably on the captaincy why he went for that, and obviously that's also to say that Scott Barrett is going to start. Doesn't matter at this point where, but he's going to start. That's another thing, and then also obviously I think like Jade mentioned with Sotutu not being selected. I think for me that was a surprise, especially after I saw Satiti there. That was a surprise. So I would think in terms of the mindset, those two were basically being put against each other, and Satiti obviously got the nod. So yeah, so just I think overall, I think it would be good to see the squad. Obviously, once they start getting together and let's see what they can do. Because I'll be honest, I didn't watch a lot of Super Rugby this year, so a lot of the players that are still on my mind are still guys that were Foster's guys. So hopefully I'll see some games this weekend, and then we can make a call.
Yeah, no, I also believe I'm of the belief that enough talk, and let's see how they actually play and what the game plan is. I also do understand the fact that obviously the squad is being named for the first time. People will have their favorites or will ask a lot of questions regarding selection. It happens in any country as well. If you look at Ireland naming the squad, and a lot of their fans or their fan base was not happy with a few omissions or omitted players. Looking at Scott Barrett, I'm happy with the captaincy. I know Scrumming Flower said that Scott Barrett is one of the most All Black players that gets red carded or yellow carded during a game. But anyway, I mean, for me personally, Scott Barrett is I think he was the favorite from the onset, to be honest. Ardie Savea took a sabbatical, went to Japan, looked at him from the final last year as well. I mean, after having to take over from Sam Kane, I don't know, wasn't too impressed personally. I think for me, Savea focusing on just rugby and pure rugby alone would make him a better player. And captaincy kind of removes that a little bit from him in terms of his output on the field, because now he has a lot more focus or a lot more jobs to look after instead of just focusing on the rugby itself. I mean, happy for Cortez Ratimer for making it. Billy Proctor, been chatting about him for quite some time. I'm very happy about that, to be honest. And yeah, just looking forward to England. And I don't know what, Jade, you think about the English side that the All Blacks are going to face, and what can we expect from them? Because we've seen them during Six Nations. We saw a bit of them against Japan last week. Obviously, there's not much you can take from that Japanese side. I mean, looking at what the Maori All Blacks did to half that team that was playing against England just yesterday. I mean, the Maori All Blacks had 5 days to assemble and set up and form a team, come up with a game plan, and then play Japan. And those players have been together for the past 3 to 4 weeks now from the Japanese side. And they still put 30 past them, you know. So what can we expect from England against the All Blacks on Saturday? And what do you think the All Blacks game plan would be, seeing that James Ryan has focused a lot on the forward pack this year? Now he's in his second to third season within the All Black camp, and they're putting a lot of emphasis in their forward play by the inclusion of so many props, making sure that they're stacked also within the loose forward department. Talk to me.
Look, well, this England team under Borthwick, I mean, we have said it a few months ago on the pod. What they do is they might not be the best runners, they might not be the most physical players, they might not have the best kicking game, but what they're going to do is, and both things going to happen, is to be well prepared when he faces opposition. And I mean, that's what he's done throughout his coaching career, being well prepared. So the amount of, depends now on the amount of IP that these players get it of each other. Because I mean, previously we would know a lot about the English team. We bought 1 or 2 players, you know, that's new. But right now, in terms of the way Super Rugby is covered up in the north, and in terms of the coverage that the Northern Rugby they get in New Zealand, there's not a lot of, you know, knowledge between the two in terms of players. And there's a lot of new players as well. I expect England to be well prepared. I expect them to be well prepared. I expect them to go, you know, being good box kicks, you know, test New Zealand really aerially, try and draw them in, try and frustrate them, you know, not giving them space with, Felix Jones and those guys at the back there, not giving them space, using their rush defense, which has been successful against, you know, All Black teams in the past. We've seen the Boks do it, we've seen Ireland do it, we've seen the British Lions do it. So they won't stray away from those things. But for me, you know, the first test is always going to be one where you don't know what to expect, from the All Blacks. We expect the All Blacks just to go in there and give England a 30 or 40 point, beat them a 30 or 40 points. But this is going to take some time, like we said, on the Razor, and it's also, they're going to be a little bit, you know, rusty. You know, new combinations playing together. First time they've really been in camp, whereas England's been in camp a little bit longer than the All Blacks, and they've also come off a Six Nations season. So they might have a little bit more continuity than the All Blacks. So that's what I'm expecting. The first game, I'm expecting England to come out to be really, really well prepared. I'm expecting Razor to focus at the breakdowns, do his basics well. For New Zealand, I expect him to be really strong at scrum time. I really expect New Zealand to, you know, dismantle England's scrum. I think there shouldn't be a match there in terms of their props in the scrum. And also think that, you know, with Razor, there's going to be a few guys there that's going to be handed the opportunity under the new regime. You know, the Damien McKenzie regime might just start now under Razor, and that's where he needs to take his opportunity. So, you know, for that, I really think that, you know, New Zealand this weekend, they won't be at their best, but we're going to see them do, their basics will be good. You know, they will win the game the weekend, but they won't be at the utmost best group. I think it's going to take some time, you know, for them to really to get, you know, to where they should be under Razor.
Yeah, Vickers, before we jump into the Springboks Island preview, what do you expect from England? What do you expect from the All Blacks? And how do you see this game transpiring? I know Jade has alluded to England being well prepared. I think we saw that during the Six Nations when they had to play a very strong island side at Twickenham. England were well prepared. They used their defensive prowess or expertise very well against Ireland. They closed them down. They didn't play a lot of rugby or ball in hand against the Irish, but they kicked very well. Put their back three under lots of pressure, contestable kicks, that is, aerial skills being tested, and then the rush defense element. And like I said to Jade, I see that the All Blacks have stacked their forward pack, because clearly the focus will be a lot on the breakdown, from the All Black perspective. And without a lot of ball during those breakdowns, then you can't implement the aerial kicks or tactical kicks, because you don't have any ball. Now a lot of your work will probably be on your defensive expertise more than attack, using air quotes in this one. But how do you see it transpiring, Vickers, in your analysis or maybe your preview? But yeah, how do you see this game going ahead?
Yeah, okay. I'll start with obviously with the outcome. I think New Zealand definitely will win the game. I think at the end it will get comfortable for New Zealand. Probably like we always seen in the past with the Crusaders. That 60th minute mark, just maybe taking the game away from England. But anyway, if I take it back, if you look at the first 10 minutes with Japan and England, Japan came out firing out of the blocks. They were playing fast. They were playing quick rucks. They were putting England under pressure on defense, and England were literally suffocating. And the only way England got back into that game was because they started slowing. They started getting penalties, and they started obviously imposing their game plan on Japan by slowing the game down, by kicking for touch, making sure the ball lands into touch. So they were trying to get the set piece. They were trying to get the game to be almost like that old Bull style where they slow it down, getting your set piece right. So if we look at now New Zealand, with New Zealand having obviously picked strong forwards, they're probably looking at that in terms of dominating. It's going to be basically pound for pound. That's what they're going to try to go with. That's what it's going to try and do, is that if we can match them match forwards for forwards, the backs is easy. New Zealand are going to win that battle by ease because they've got the better backs. They will have obviously the better playmakers within the team. Whereas I still don't understand Alex Mitchell. He does a lot of good things on the field, but I still don't feel uncomfortable when he's at 9. I feel like he's not going to put the opposition under pressure, and which is the difference with obviously when you look at the likes of DuPont, when you look at the likes of Aaron Smith in the past, you look at the likes of even Faf does that. He put you can never be sure. So that's what I think. I think in terms of New Zealand going to this game, they just need to play that at that high tempo, and I don't think England will survive that through the 80 minutes.
Fair enough. Now moving on to the Springboks and Ireland. We've seen Rassie Erasmus on the socials posting. Rassie Erasmus is like this other guy I know on Twitter. This other guy with the Springbok player on his profile, scrumming fly off. Yeah, but anyway, we've seen Rassie posting on the social media, guys. He posts the Irish team, so the age, the weight of each player, by the way, and the amount of caps per player. Obviously, we all know his antics. I think every inbound tour started this from the British and Irish Lions back in when was that? When was that tour? 2021 or 2020? No, COVID during 2020.
2021.
2021, yeah. He did similar stuff. He did a 60-minute special, Netflix special. I mean, he's trying to get a lot of the fans getting involved, the South African fans. We know they're going to comment there. We know they're going to laugh at it. And we know the Irish media is going to lap it. They're going to get involved as well and start sharing stories on their social media platforms, on their newsrooms as well, media houses. Basically, Vickers or Jade, maybe Vickers start with this one. Mentally, when these things start flying around in the media, I mean, does it have any influence on the players themselves during their preparations and go onto social media and see this or read about this on papers? As a coach, I mean, how do you prepare players about these sort of distractions in these situations?
Yeah, look, the players don't get distracted by such things. They know their coach very well. They know that he's a guy who likes to play the mind games, if you can call it that like that, and they probably find it funny. It's not going to be even an issue. I think for me, just the way that I see South Africa approaching this game is very simple. If you remember, he understood that in 2021, playing the British and Irish Lions first game, we were not going to be ready for it. And he understood that. But they needed the players to execute the game plan to the T. And I think because now there's so much hype with this inbound test, the only thing that the South Africa wants is to win those games. It doesn't matter how they're going to win them; they're going to need to win those games, and that's it. And if they win those games, then they'll start to relax and start to focus on the Portugal test. They'll focus on the Rugby Championship. Then they'll target obviously the New Zealand games in SA. So I'm not even thinking they looking at building a squad for the Rugby Championship. This is a must win, and that's why Rassie is taking upon himself to start these conversations online, because that's what he does. He's a mind. He plays mind games, and he'll get, if you get distracted and you get sidetracked, that's when you're gonna miss the small bits that he's trying to do. So for me, when this happens, when coaches do this, it's most of the time it's because the players know what's gonna happen, and they're probably having it a joke and like what you call an inside joke within the team. And also, remember, he's putting the information out there for the public to see, so that in case the results don't go their way, maybe people will start making their minds on why they didn't go their way without looking at the nitty-gritties, because they're not the coaches.
No,
So for me, I think this is perfect. Rassie doing this. I mean, as you've seen in his past, he's following Scotland in his Twitter account, the one account that he followed, and then he changed it to follow England, and then he changed it to follow New Zealand, like things like that. So for me, it's just a part of mind games, and I think South Africa really want to win this game just because of the hype, that Ireland has come to South Africa and they're coming to dominate.
Those words, they just stung like a bee. Are we floating, Jade, like a butterfly? Are we gonna get stung like bees? Huh? Because listen,
No. The series is gonna be a cracker, Jane. The series is gonna be a cracker.
As they used to say in Kwaito music, the popesal dance.
Popesal dance, yeah.
But Jade, before you start, Vickers, I think mentioned a very important thing here, which I've always also thought about. I mean, putting those stats and those numbers. I mean, if you look at those details, right, that Rassie had put out. If we look at the average age of that Irish team is 29, which means that they're in their prime. This is your prime age group or age level that you need to be at rugby, where everything just goes well. Your experience, your expertise, your knowledge, your game tactics, your IQ, your what is this? I mean, your reads are amazing. Your tackles. I mean, everything. You're a well-rounded player at this age, right? The average caps is 45. That means you've played almost every other nation in the world. You understand pressure. You understand build up to games and how important those games are, no matter where they are played. High felt, low felt, it makes no difference when you are averaging at 45 caps at international level. Like Vuyo just said, I mean, if things really do go pear-shaped, in the first test. People then will go back and say, yeah, Ireland is averaging, the average age is 29 and the average caps is 45. So it makes sense that they would beat the Springboks. And also going back to the fact that Springboks haven't beaten Ireland in this decade.
Mm-hmm.
Springboks have gone to Ireland and they've lost. They've played them in a World Cup and they've lost. Ireland is coming to South Africa to actually continue with the dominance. Talk to me, Jade. Praat met my.
No, look, it was a masterstroke. But I mean, obviously, Scoop and Vuyo, I mean, we could mention and name the Ireland team already. I mean, we know what this, we know the starting 15. The only thing is whether he goes a 6-2 split or 5-3, and then Henshaw, somebody would come in. But we know his team, which is basically be, I think, Ringrose or Henshaw, between the two of them at 13. But he did it because he showed the IP he has on Ireland. He did it also to show, like you said, to show that, Ireland's in their prime. Number one in they should whether now number two or number one in the world. Big talk of them being the best team. They've been dominant, they're in their prime, playing together for a while. He did that, that's why he did it and he showed it. And also, like you're saying, for this Irish team, yeah, I don't think, the British and Irish Lions tour next year is really on the back of their mind. I think this tour here is the one they really know they target in terms of Andy Farrell. After that New Zealand tour, that was the next one that he wanted to get on his bucket list, to beat the Boks in South Africa. I mean, it would show you that the Lions couldn't do it, but my team can do it, and my Irish team did it. And even though what happened in the World Cup, we lost in the quarterfinals, but this is still a world-class Irish team. And, we beat New Zealand away, we beat South Africa away, give us our flowers. So I think, that's where we are going to in terms of this. But I mean, if you're looking at Rassie Erasmus, I mean, all of this Irish talk, everything that went on after the World Cup, post-World Cup, Leinster, Munster, those guys playing in the URC, all the banter. Russ is loving it. And the Irish is playing completely into his hands, in terms of the mastermind. I always say, Rassie Erasmus reminds me of primetime Jose Mourinho. He reminds me of primetime Jose Mourinho. And I love the way he's handling it. I love the way he's taken the job. He's the head coach. He's directly responsible for this team. So yeah, for me, I'm looking forward to this test series. I can't wait for the first kickoff. I think it's going to be absolute class. It's just a pity that I don't like to do it, but a guy like Angus Gardner, who was one of the officials, is not officiating, because I really think he had the perfect temperament, to blow this. To officiate the game in this series. Him and Ben O'Keefe, stood at the red highly at the moment. But yeah, so let's just hope, that we don't have any controversial calls or anything. We don't let Rassie or Andy Farrell don't make any videos next week or so. So yeah, so I really think I can't wait for this game on Saturday. It's going to be a humdinger.
Fair enough. Vuyo, now the most important part leading into this week, we understand that the Springboks will name their team on Tuesday. I mean, that's 2 days from now, literally. I mean, who do you think starts for the Boks? Is it the same team that started against the All Blacks in Paris? Obviously, barring Dwayne Vermeulen this time around. But at this rate, it looks like everyone is fit, everyone is ready. Who do you think starts for you in the Springbok team for the Irish test?
Yeah, look, I think it's pretty easy to name because we all know. I mean, like I said, if this game is a must win for South Africa, they'll probably go with. I think they'll probably go with Malcolm, starting with Ox. I think Ox, Malcolm, and I have a feeling that it might be Koch, but obviously it could be Maherbe. And then I think they'll keep Kitov and Bongi and one of obviously the tight heads. And then the locks over is pretty easy. I think they'll definitely go with Eben at 4. I haven't seen. I think Franco Mostert played for 40. Played last week, but I watched the first half of that game. I didn't see him much, but he'll probably get the nod at 5. Then like I said, Sia, Peter Stiff, and probably Kwaha or Evan Ross, because Evan was, I mean, he got that one big run, and he was. That's a good finishing. That's a good finishing from a young man. So I'll probably think get a nod at 8. Then obviously we look at Faf. I think Faf, Pollard, Pimps. I'm gonna go with Pimps because I want to go with 12 probably Dialende and Jesse. I think 14 will probably be Kirtley, and then 15 Villy. If he's fit. I'm not sure if he is fit. But I think that's probably basically the starting lineup. And South Africa for this game, I definitely think they'll go 6-2. I think they'll go Grant Williams and Sasha on the bench, and probably obviously like I said, 6-2 split. So yeah, for me, I think that's what I would think. What the coaches would think. I don't think they're going to go with any. Barring the number 8 jersey, I don't think they're going to go with any player that hasn't been at that pressure level.
Jade, do you see yourself choosing a similar team as well to what Vuyo has chosen for the Springboks?
Yeah, more or less. I mean, obviously for me, Frans Malherbe starts. He's not an impact player. He has to start the game. I don't know if Malcolm Marx will start. Maybe Bongi gets the start and Marx from the bench. I'm not sure how Marx is feeling, or maybe he'll just let him empty the tank and then, bring Bongi on. But in terms of that, I'm not sure how far Jasper Visser is. Is he eligible to play after his ban or not? If not, he could start at 8. But if, Kwacha or Evan Roos is fine. And other than that, I think the team's the same. I know Cheslin still has a niggle. I'm not sure if he's 100% yet, but then the team will still be the same as we all selected. Also 6-2 on the bench. The only concern for the Boks is, weakness that I had to pick up last week was their lineouts. I think they need to do a little bit more work at lineout time, but they'll get there. Like I said, it was their first game. Also, Malcolm Marx's first game back. He couldn't really get the dot the dot going last week, but let's see how he goes this week. Yeah. But other than that, I think that's more or less the team. My big concern with the Boks is they don't have a like-for-like replacement for Peter Steff. If something happens to Peter Steff, I think they're in trouble. I think they're in trouble. I think, okay, in terms of world-class quality, you're not really going to replace him. But that is why I was a little bit shocked that Erich Louw wasn't in the squad, because I think he's similar to Peter Steff, in terms of his line-out work, his carrying, he plays in the trenches, he can do that. Whereas, Frans van Mostert, if Peter Steff does get injured, we'll see Frans van Mostert maybe move to 7. But he's not really the same kind of player, at loose forward as he is at lock. So that's my only dark cloud, that I have with this Bok team. Something does happen to Peter Steff, what's plan B?
Vickers?
That's a very good concern that you have there, Jade, because I actually missed it, because I was also thinking the same, is that we don't actually have a out-and-out swap for Peter Steff. And by not selecting, obviously, Ulrich Louw, that means that you possibly could move Evan Ross to 7 and then continue with maybe Kwacha at 8. But that's that will be a big change for the young man, especially he hasn't played there for a lot for his club, for his province. I just wanted to touch on the Marx thing. Marx would start if I'm thinking as a coach. Marx would start because he's coming back from injury, so possibly that he wouldn't last. If he lasts 40 minutes, that would be absolutely great. But it's just that if he doesn't start and he's on the bench and then he comes on and then he doesn't go all the full 80 from the bench to the rest of the 80, and then you might have to bring Bongi back, or you can't if Bongi was substituted. So it's a tricky part. I think that's why I said Marx would start, because of the fact that he can push. If he gets to 40, they would be singing his praises, and then obviously 45, we all know that probably the change will come.
Okay, I've heard both of you. I've listened to the squad, or to your starting lineups. But now my concern is I'm looking at the Irish team and I'm thinking the Springbok team, speaks for itself. I think it chooses itself. Everyone knows this. I don't think Rassie Rasmus and his coaching staff will probably change anything more than what we saw against Wales and what we saw in the final last year against the All Blacks. With this Irish team having been consistent, Jade, throughout, obviously once-off game, quarterfinals, they lost it. I mean, if they won that game, they probably pretty much move through to the finals and probably win. But nonetheless, pound for pound, when you look at whoever is starting in your front row, Kitsoff, Bongi or Marks and Malherbe, pound for pound, Andrew Porter, Dan Sheenan, Tug Furlong, are they matching? Who's winning that confrontation, Jade?
Oaks, France, they're winning their confrontation because they've done it before. I mean, Porter hasn't been, I mean, he's get penalized a lot. We just saw Tyler Lomax in the quarterfinal, not TM a new one, and he got penalized a lot. So you can't. I mean, they haven't. Who's matched up to besides maybe in the World Cup final and the Mount Small test, but who's matched up to the Boxers tight five? I mean, to the Boxers front row. Even in the URC as well, we saw the Bulls really giving that Leinster front a problem. And at hooker, yeah, Sheehan. I mean, Sheehan arguably maybe is at the moment the best hooker in the world. Maybe he's brilliant. But I mean, in terms of my props, I'm not swapping them for those two.
Fair enough. Now we move on to the locks. You've got Tug Byrne, or you have McGrath, the new youngster.
McCarthy.
Oh, McCarthy, sorry, not McGrath. McCarthy, the new youngster coming through. I mean, with 440 and Eben, yes, we understand. But do you think Franco matches up to the Irish lock pairing?
This is difficult because Luke Evans world class, but I mean Dennis Byrne is world class as well. I mean he's been brilliant for Munster and for Leinster. So I mean if I'm looking at the combo, I'm going those two. If I'm looking at the pairing, I mean how much rugby has McCarthy and Dennis Berg really played together compared to Mostert and Eben, who's basically won World Cups together and playing British and Irish Lions games together. So in terms of the pair, yeah. But it's very, very difficult. I think it's 50-50. But I mean, I'm going to choose two. I'm going to choose Eben and Dennis Byrne.
Oh, Vickers, that lock pairing, are you happy with the Springbok one?
Yeah, definitely, bro. Front row Springboks, lock pairing Springboks, definitely.
Okay. Now we move to the back row. You've got Peter O'Mahony, you've got Josh van der Fleer, maybe Doris comes through on this one, and then you have the Springbok one. I'm thinking Kolisi starts, obviously. You've got, because now you guys, both of you, are not sure who's going to start at 8 for the Boks. And that's another concern. And whoever, if it's Russ who starts, maybe a bit wet up behind the ears, not really understanding a lot of international rugby level and this type of games, the pressures, because Peter O'Mahony is going to be in your face if you're a starter. He's really going to be poking you to get a reaction out of you if you're starting Russ. You know what they're going to do. The dark arts of those breakdowns, whatever, pulling ears, pulling jerseys, trapping you in those rucks so that you don't roll away, you're getting penalized, costing your team. Those pressures might not be visible for a lot of rugby fans, but those small little dynamics that add up to frustration. Can Ruiz handle that? Because I think Kwagga Smith can handle that because he's been there, he's done that. So from my perspective, I think I would start Kwagga over Ruiz at 8, but then now you don't have, but you still have you have Kolisi, you have Kwagga at 8, and then you have Peter Steph du Toit at 7. Perfect. And then if you want to put in Ruiz, maybe in the later part of the second half, the last 10 minutes even, if the game is secured. But who do you guys see in the back row, pound for pound?
Pound for pound, I think Ireland takes this one. I think Doris van der Fleer, O'Malley, they've been as a combo for a few years, I mean, almost a decade. I mean, Doris came on later on the scene. He replaced Cronin, but I mean they're solid, and I think they really work well as a combination. So yeah, I'll give it to them. But obviously, if I was going to choose a team, I'd have to make place for Peter Steph. I'd have to drop one of them for Peter Steph. But yeah, as a unit, I think Islands lose trio. I think they work class.
All right. The backs. I think the backs will be quite an interesting one. I think, what's his name? Damien Dialinde against Bandi Aki again. I mean, Bandi Aki had that one big break in that group stage game, one-on-one with Mani Libok, puts him to the side, puts him on his bum, runs another 50-odd meters. Probably, I mean, whoever plays at 10 for the Springboks will definitely have his work cut out for him on defense, because the Irish will probably target that channel, because Bandi Aki is not a tiny man. Because, Jade, I think one of the things you mentioned as well during our earlier pods regarding Leinster was that they don't have an out-and-out 12 that's the size of Bandi Aki, who can give them that go forward. But then the Irish team has that, a 12 that can carry well and hard. We know what Damien Delinde can do. He's been playing in Japan. He does it in Japan. He does it for the Springboks. But can he still do it again in 2024? 12 position, tight one. Vickers, actually, you're a backline. You're usually a backline player. You can't be quiet on this one. But yeah, jump in there, Jade.
I'm going to give it to Vickers because this is a close call. I mean, both Damien and the Island, or even Andre Esther isn't against Bandi Aki. It's going to be, blockbuster. It's going to be brilliant. I mean, Bandi is one of he's been nominated last year for IRB Player of the Year. He's been brilliant for Ireland, brilliant at the World Cup. And Damien's also been brilliant. Because Bandi Aki come from New Zealand and was schooled in New Zealand, I had to ill-edge it. But close. I can't call this one really because you call it.
Not jumping too quickly. There's a 10 issue obviously with Ireland at this point as well. I mean, a game in the high felt, a strong number 10 with experience is required. I think that if the Springboks are to win on Saturday, Pollard will have to come to the party. He has to play out of his skin. He has to kick correctly, accurately for the poles, because a lot of that first half will be based on that. But we've seen a different side of the Springbok team with the inclusion of Tony Brown, where they want to run a bit more. Do you think we will see a lot of kicking from Pollard, or do you think there'll be a lot more running from the Springbok side, Jade?
I don't think there won't be, a lot of razzle dazzle and, throwing the ball around like they did against Wales. They'll be much more compact. They'll be sticking to their strengths. They tried and tested, tiring out Ireland, and maybe in the last 20 or so, if that altitude does kick in, and that's when we'll see them throw it around. But I mean, they won't also just kick everything away. We won't go back to what we had against the Lions, where we had the kick darts the whole day. I don't think we'll have that this weekend. But I think in terms of your fluff, like you mentioned, Pollard's been there and done it. But for me, if you're going to look at the whole halfback combination, the important one this weekend for Ireland is going to be Conor Murray. I mean, we know what Jamison Gibson Park has done. And we've seen what Conor Murray did when he played against the Bulls for Munster. He was absolutely brilliant. So I think Conor Murray is going to be the one, he's kicking game. He, slowing the game down, letting Crawley settle in at Loftus, against that, in that atmosphere, letting him settle down. I think that's going to be the one. Conor Murray is going to be important, for this test. If Ireland ought to win it, they're going to need Conor Murray to be clear of his skin again for the two tests.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, leaving that alone, moving to your All Blacks team, you mentioned something about Mackenzie coming into the party. Who do you see starting from the All Blacks this weekend?
Oh, my 15. So obviously, I think you'll go with the Groot, Cody, and Lomax because they've been and played together. I think you'll, depending if top Petty Tubelotu is fit, if he's fit, he starts with next to Scooter Barrett, just to give him that punch up front. And he'll go Finau, Dalton Papali, Orisa Via will start. That will be the Lucy's. And obviously, scrum offs, I think he'll start with Christie. D-Mac will start. I think when Christie starts, to get a good running. And then wingers, anybody, I don't know, maybe Caleb Clark or Talia at 11, and Sevu Reese will start at 15. He'll go with Rico and Jody at center. And I think Bowden plays fullback this weekend, depending on how Bowden, his fitness levels and what kind of Bowden comes back. But yes, I think that's more or less his team that he'll go with. He could chop and change it a little bit. You could have Ethan Blacker starting at 6. You could have Ofotuanga Fasi starting at prop. But yeah, I think that's his team. That will be his starting 15.
All right. No, fair enough. Guys, that brings us to an end of our show this Sunday. I think we're all looking forward to the internationals taking place next weekend. I think next week Sunday is going to be on fire with comments, with analytics, and looking forward to the second week of the inbound tour. But thank you very much to the guys, to our favorite listeners. Thank you for coming through. Scrumming Flower, Ndabezindo, you there? Emmy, you there? Thanks, Monzi. Thanks, Vickers. Thanks, Jade. We'll see you guys next week. Same time, same place. Rugby Scoop Pod. Before we jump out, Jade, you want to share something?
I don't have anything to share, nothing really. But thanks, guys. Thanks for listening. Let's enjoy the rugby this week. Let's go Team Southern Hemisphere next week against the Northern Hemisphere, and then myself and Scrumming Flower can bash each other in the championship again.
I thought you were going to talk about Free State Cheetahs losing the...
Oh, no, that's why I did it on purpose. But you know what? For Scrumming Flower, I just want to tell him that with Western Province winning the Craven week, the Blue Bulls' future looks very bright.
All right. Cheers, guys. Have a wonderful Sunday. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Cheers.
Cheers.